an informed conservative says something like, well, yeah, there's a problem there, but let's not get ahead of ourselves and presume that we actually know how to fix it in a way that won't just make it worse.
Right, right.
And for me, like, I'm kind of temperamentally predisposed to be more on the liberal left end of things from a personality perspective, because I'm high in a trait called openness, which is a good predictor of say, liberalism and more left wing thinking, although I'm also high in conscientiousness, which is a good predictor of more right wing thinking. But what really convinced me to become more of a traditionalist, I would say, was this realization of unintended consequences. Is that it's very, very difficult to make alterations to a complex system in a manner that doesn't make the system function worse instead of better. And so I think, generally speaking, that especially when you're perturbing extraordinarily complex social systems, that you should be firmly aware of the limits of your intelligence and the probability of your biased interpretations.
Of course, and I love that you've brought up this term traditionalism. I actually made the case a couple days ago that I think Donald Trump himself, maybe counterintuitively, exhibits many aspects of traditionalism in the Edmund Burke, Michael Oakeshott sort of sense of things. And I wonder if now, as you've noted, channeling Nietzsche, that at a certain point in our culture, God died for our cultural purposes, and ideology replaced it. Where are we now? Are we in a post-ideological age? Is God striking back against Nietzsche and his followers?
Well, the thing is, one of the things that's really necessary to note about Nietzsche is that when he made the pronouncement that God was dead, it was by no means triumphant.
Of course, yeah.
So because
people misunderstand that a lot.
Oh, definitely. The full phrase is I'm paraphrasing, but the full phrase is something like, God is dead, we have killed him, and we'll never find enough water to wash away the blood. Right. And that was associated with thoughts he had at the same time, that the consequence of the death of this traditional value structure, and the idea of a transcendent moral structure and ultimate moral responsibility, would be replaced by two things. One would be a kind of hopeless nihilism, and the other would be a swing, especially into leftist totalitarianism, which he directly predicted, as did Dostoevsky, although that wasn't the only logical totalitarian outcome.
Of course.
So, I mean, he had that nailed. It's actually one of the most amazing prescient predictions that I've ever encountered.
And in any way, do you find a link between that nihilism that came out of the death of God and left-wing totalitarianism and these campus snowflakes and the Peter Pan syndrome and the pajama boys, this apathetic, malaise, whiny, bratty culture that we're seeing among a perfectly luxurious, young, healthy, wealthy generation?
Well, you need a direction, right? And without that, you're bereft certainly of positive emotion, but you're also hyper anxious. That's the thing that's kind of odd about having direction and responsibility, is that it gives meaning to your life, because it helps you understand how the small things you do every day are related to crucial and important goals. Without that, it's very, very difficult to orient yourself in the world.